Well, welcome neighbors. I'm John, your whiskey neighbor, and today I thought I would look at part of the 2017 rare release, Gooderham Worts, Little Trinity. More after the break. Well, thanks for coming back. I was really curious what I was going to review this time because I just finished going through a sample pack of some Irish whiskies, and it's still not quite St. Patrick's Day. But I looked at my Irish collection, and I have to say it's a little thin. And I've been enjoying the dissertation that my brother-in-law gave me. It made me think again of some Canadian whiskey, and I haven't reviewed the Gooderham Worts Little Trinity, which is a special release of the Northern Border Collection. Northern Border Collection includes Gooderham Worts 4-grain, Lot 40 Rye, Pike Creek, and the JP Weiser. I don't know what's in their regular release. Is it their 18 or are there 15 now? I'm not sure what would be considered regular. And then they came out with a rare release of Lot 40 12-year-old cask strength, which is awesome if you love rye. JP Weiser 35, which I have not tasted yet. The Pike Creek 21 that is finished in Speyside Scotch barrels. And this one. So today is Gooderham Worts Little Trinity. This one is a rare, unique release. It's different from their Gooderham Worts 4-grain in that it's only 3 grains. And this one has an age statement. It released at 45%, so slightly stronger than the play on percent that they did where it was 4 grains, 44.4%. I thought that was a lot of fun. This is a 45% ABV, but it has an age statement. So this means that the spirits that have been blended, it is a blend, in here are 17 years or older. Now, something interesting about this expression that Davin Kergamo, who is definitely the premier source of Canadian whiskey information, on his site, I was reading, actually after I'd gotten into the whiskey expression, I thought, well, I should look like I know something. But instead of, I knew that it says 3 grain right on it. I knew that. And I knew that the grains that they had in here was corn and rye and wheat. So they've pulled the barley out of the blend. Well, I mean, they didn't put it in. But I didn't know what Davin says on his site is that there's actually 5 spirits in here. And that, 3 of them are corn. And so what that is that some corn was aged for 17 years in new oak. In toasted, virgin American oak. And then some corn was aged a little longer, 18 years, in ex-bourbon barrels. And then some corn, I don't know their percentages at all, but some of the corn spirit was aged in well-used barrels. Barrels that really have been at the Hiram Walker distillery for some time, aging different whiskeys. So not a first fill type thing. So that's your corn. Then he indicates that the rye in here is only single distilled and then aged for 17 years in new oak. And then that the wheat was also, I don't know if it was single or double distilled, but also aged in new oak. So that's a fair amount of information about this. And I also think the story on Little Trinity is really cool too. It comes from that at the Gooderham Worts distillery back in the day. I don't know the dates, you'll have to look them up. But back in the day, the workers, when they went to church on Sunday, the churches in the area used to have to, if you went into church, you'd have to pay a pew fee, a fee to sit in the pew, as far as I understand it. Oh boy. Is it? I bet it says William Gooderham. Yes, William Gooderham. There it is. William Gooderham didn't think that was a cool idea. And so he built a little church, a little Trinity. and it still survives in Toronto. Oh, it's on the bottle. I said it built it in 1842. Okay. And I think if you're in Toronto or in the area, if you look at the distillery district where the old Gooderham Worts distillery used to be, if you go, I think it's north a few blocks or something, I think you can still find, I think it's an Anglican church now. So that's a cool story. But we're here to talk whiskey. So as I said, age stamp, 17 years, 3 grains. And it's a fairly approachable, actually kind of a gentle nose. That it's almost like the rye floral that's in there, some of those fruitier notes are wrapped up in the sweetness or creaminess, a creamy vanilla. I expected with all the new oak aging that I really just read about, I've been tasting this without much knowledge aside from the grain, I thought there'd be more wood notes on the nose. If you dig around, you can get at them, but it's really a gentler, welcoming nose. It doesn't have an alcohol-forward presence. It tends to have a little bit of that fruit that's coming, and even a dark fruit, but wrapped up in a sweetness, in a vanilla, in a creamy vanilla, in a little bit of a corn sweetness that I tend to pick up sometimes in Canadian whiskeys, but not overly so. It's really quite a gentle and welcoming nose. Color-wise, I can't speak. I really wish our industry would just immediately dissolve any kind of coloring. I can't tell you. At 17 years, I can believe that color, but this is the Gooderham Worts 4 grain, non-age stamp. Looks about the same, and I'm quite sure it's probably half the age. Let's give it a taste. I shouldn't be silent for so long on a video cast. This is a very nice drinking whiskey. It has good mouthfeel. So the sweetness of the vanilla that I have in the nose turns into a creamy sweetness. A toasted sugar. What would be a creamy sweetness? I've heard creme brulee. I don't think I've ever used it as a tasting note. If I have, well, okay. But I just mean, it's coating, so a little bit buttery. And then you add the notes that I mentioned. There's a fair amount of rye in it, but certainly not as spicy or as grabbing as Dissertation, which I had recently. Much more coating, smooth. For me, the oak notes really come in the finish or in subsequent sips, like if you've been having it through an evening. So now that I've been talking a little bit since that kind of one first sip, now I'm in an interplay of a little bit of bitterness, to be honest, but not an unpleasing or an unpleasant, but a little bit of almost like a wood bitterness, a little bit drying from the rye, but there's still enough of the sugar still kind of playing around the palate. It's still thick enough that it's still there, so it's balanced nicely. I'm going to try another little sip. Yeah, that was a better sip. That one for me, maybe because I've had that kind of clear out the palate, bit of whiskey. Now I can get some more tarts, jams, fruits. I can get quite a bit of wood. Now pepper, a little peppery in the mouth that I wanted, that I didn't get in the first sip at all. But I like that. So now a little, like the pepper here could be more like, not like real pepper, more like, cinnamon can be a little bit spicy. It's not cinnamony, but, a little bit of that grab that you get. But deeper, darker, smooth. It gives away its age as you spend time in it. At first, it's just okay. That's interesting, but as you sip, yeah. Now the sugars move more to that caramel or deeper, darker brown sugar maybe, or deep maple syrup, but not quite that sweet. But yeah, and now the oak. I don't know if it's because after that first sip, it's in my palate, throat, or whatnot, and then now each sip, the oak notes are now present. Right now, I can taste that sweetness of vanilla that we get from oak. Breathe maybe a little bit of char, but also just honestly the taste of wood. Not so woody as some bourbons I've had where I say, when you finish a popsicle and then you chew on the stick for a long time. I mean, you're tasting wood here, but there is some of that. Absolutely. Do I feel like I have maybe a toothpick, not the whole that I've been chewing on a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a strong wood note. So I like this whiskey. It's got a great story. I love that they've got an age stamp on it. I didn't know that they really worked at blending so many different varieties of corn spirit and such. As we talk, the finish is still around. I love a whiskey that gives me that story that doesn't just go away, right? Or demands a next sip. I will say I've had a sip. I'm looking forward to another one, but it's not like, I need to have another one to keep the experience going. I'm happy. It's good. Here's a question I have though. This rare release stuff is interesting. The Lot 40, the regular, this is the 2012 bottle. I still got a little bit kicking around. Just great. It's priced right at about $40 where I am. And then the Lot 40 cask strength, the 12-year, is phenomenal. For me, it's $65. I don't want to pay more than $20 for it, but I'd pay $100 for it. What I mean is, this is just great ride. It's just bold and fruity and floral and hugs you to death. It's good stuff. Little Trinity is a more polished than the regular 4-grain. Absolutely. But I thought I'd pour a little bit of it to see what my thoughts are today. So absolutely, this is not sour, but the nose is young. Absolutely, you can not young like alcohol. Again, they've done a great job in their casking and blending to create a spirit that doesn't hit you with 44.5%. So they've done a good job there. But that young spirit is interesting. It's like a perkier spirit. It's perkier. It's instead of kind of mellow, creamy sweet, it's sort of, that's a candy sweet. That's a little pepperier. I'm going to taste it too. And it is thinner in the mouth, but I don't know. I almost got iced tea out of that, which is really strange. I don't think I know I've never said that as a tasting note, but what I mean by that is the sugar tasted a little bit like sugar. Not grainy and gross, but just, this is a sweeter drink. And the pepper continued. It was definitely peppery. Now I will say the finish is mostly gone. It's there, but it's not hanging around. But it's a lively drink, absolutely. If I come to the barley removed, they didn't remove it. They didn't add it. So the corn, rye, and wheat, but with some age in it. Caramel notes much stronger now. If you're going for fruits, they're candied or they're darker or they're richer. If you're talking sugars, they've been oaked, a lot of wood, a lot more wood. So I don't know how to rate this. I really don't. I do believe this is a finer spirit. And probably for those used to drinking finer expressions, this is probably, worth, this is, for me, Gooderham Worts, let's say 40. And this is, let's say 80. And this is worth more money. They've taken more, it's more time. It's a rare release, a one-time release. So I understand where it's priced. And I would say that probably most people will find it a gentler, sippable whiskey, a more enjoyable evening. If you're just sitting with a friend and talking about your experience or a trip, or you're looking for that, I think this will give you that. This bottle will give you that. And so for me, this is a 4-star whiskey. I know I should give it more. Really, on a 10-point scale, okay, so it's a 4.5-star whiskey because it's quite good. It really is. So it's a 4.5. But I will far more likely for myself when I'm watching a hockey game, which I don't do enough of. I'm not a big sport guy, but what I'm trying to, I just use it as an analogy. What I mean is, if I'm just pouring something that I like the taste of, that I'm happy to be having a sip. I like the youthful and the way they've put together the regular Gooderham Worts. Now, they are totally different. They have different blends. They have different ages. I mean, they have the same label, but they are clearly going after a different taste profile. And while there's echoes of the kind of, there's corn and there's, I think some bready or wheat notes to this. That's probably what I'm getting at with the creamy thing. I think it's really unfair to compare them, whereas it's a little more fair to compare the 100% rye and the 100% rye aged longer in cask strength. Like those are worth talking about, like what's different. These I think are just different expressions, and I like them both. So those are my thoughts. I think I talked for a long time. I just was on a road trip with a friend. We were in the car for 5.5 hours, which isn't that long, but it was long enough that I was looking forward to shooting a couple of thoughts on good Canadian whiskeys. I'll stand behind that. I'll say that this is 4.5, and that if you like more mature, definitely if you like good oak notes running through sweetness, I think this is a good pick. If you're just looking for a good whiskey, check out my review of the Gooderham Worts. It's decent stuff, and it costs half as much. Anyways, thanks so much. Maybe give me your thoughts on the rare release or some Canadian whiskey. Hopefully, I know most of my viewers are in America, so I don't know how many of these things come your way. But seek it out. I think it's definitely worth trying. It's a nice expression, and I'm proud of them for putting an age stamp on it and getting behind it. Thanks, John, Whiskey Neighbor. Subscribe, like, all of those good things I say at the end. You guys take care. Bye.